here I am in my kitchen, and it's time for me to fulfill a promise. I referred to my marmalade that I make, not a sandwich marmalade, but a marmalade I use for cooking. I have the jar here, and it's loosely set. It is quite gel-like, syrupy, and I make it that way because I like to just take a spoonful out or whatever when I'm baking, or when I use it in a sauce, or when I use it in my cakes or in my carrot cake, for instance. And it's very simple. I do not spread it on bread or scones or whatever else, because it's not my, it's not my favourite topping, but I do love it in my cooking. So I did promise I would make a video. It's not difficult, truly not difficult. The measurements vary, and they vary because the oranges are sometimes juicier than other times. Now, there's 3 of them. They're huge, all right? But they could be very dry. So therefore I would need to use some more water and even some lemon juice possibly, or lime juice. But right now, these feel pretty well okay. So I'll be making the orange marmalade that you requested, and I hope that you enjoy it as much as I do, because it's in the fridge and I could just spoon a spoonful out anytime I like. And it's just such a nice additive to some of the dishes that I make. So here goes the preparation. Right, what one needs is a peeler, a thin peeler. Now, there are various ones around. I know, I've got another one here. I'll just show you this one. But it's a lot wider, the blade's a lot wider apart. And this is actually for white asparagus. So I would not be using it for my orange, because then you'll get the pith, so that white stuff. So this is a very thin one, the blades are almost opposite each other, so it will take a very thin layer off the orange. And I don't push down on it either, so there you go, see? Like that. So there you see the pith, and the orange peel itself is pure orange. And that's what you want, because the pith makes it a wee bit bitter. Now, you will get some on there, and it's not a bad thing. It's just that you don't want to peel all 3 oranges and have lots and lots of the thick pith there. So I will just continue to peel these. It'll take a few minutes, but I'm not going anywhere. It's lousy weather outside, and well, what else can I do? So I just go to the kitchen. Right, all done. Last little piece. There we go. Now, I do have, from the 3 oranges, I do have a number of slices of skins that do have the pith on. Now, it's not a lot, but I'll scrape it off. And that's a really simple procedure where you just take a knife and just gently scrape over the top and remove this pith that you really don't want too much of. Last piece, and it's a lot easier to be very careful with the original peeling than having to strip all these little bits off. Now, luckily I didn't have a lot, and this is the whitish, that really bitter part of the orange. So I'm glad I took that off. Right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut these skins, these pieces of skins. We're going to cut them into very thin strips. Now, obviously, you've got a fair bit to do, but the idea is to put a few on top of each other and just slice them really thinly. Again, it's more like a time consuming, but oh well, it's raining out there and it's windy and not very attractive to be going outside. and certainly not to sit outside and have a coffee and read a book, so may as well be doing something worthwhile inside. Halfway there, and no, it's not a fun job. You just got to persevere. Right, then the last slices. Now, what you also need to remember is that you can have really long bits. I'll do that top bit half again, but it's also important to sometimes cut some of those in half, or else you've only got long bits of the orange, and if you want to use it on cupcakes or whatever, you don't always want only just very long thin strips. So there we are, done. My pot, quite happy with that. Next step, the juicer. Now, you may not have a press. This is a nice old one. It belonged to my father-in-law. I love this. Lots of different sorts around. And even if you haven't got one at all, you can just cut the orange into fours and squeeze really hard. So, you know, you don't have to have a press, but it is handy. But I love using this because every time I grab it out the drawer, it reminds me of my father-in-law. So, yeah. My favourite, well, one of my favourite articles. Right, this is the last piece. Now, what I have done, just so that I can, well, I don't normally measure, I normally just throw the juice in, but just for the record, I have put the juice in the jug. Now, I'll just turn this, fold it double and have another last squeeze. Here we go. Now, it would have been more. Only one of the oranges, and that was the one where I had the most pith on the skin, one of the oranges wasn't very well. At least it was okay, but when I cut it open to juice it, I didn't trust it. So I didn't juice that one. I mean, the skin was fine. There was no blemish on it whatsoever, but it was a wee bit softer than the others. So I thought then at the time, I thought, oh, this one might be a bit overripe. It's always a good term for it, isn't it? Overripe. So here's the bowl with all my skins. And here's my jug with juice. And it says, now I'm metric measures here. What is it? 300 ml. Yeah, 300 ml. And as far as cups concerned, there you go. Can't read it properly. Yes. What does it say? Oh, 12 ounces. Yeah, 12 ounces and about 1 3/4 cups. So that's what I'm going to add now to my saucepan with the orange peels. Right, here she goes. Now, believe it or not, I am going to add some water, not a lot, and I'll swirl it around in my jug to get all the rest off. What have I got here? Half a cup. Yep, half a cup of water. In she goes. Now, I'll just turn the element on to medium. No, 3/4 heat. So it goes up to 9. I've put it on 6. I've got induction cooking here. So now I'll just grab the sugar. And for those of you that use alternative sweeteners, that's fine. You know, everyone must do what they feel most comfortable with. I'm going to add sugar, and I am actually going to add a cup of sugar. Now, these oranges weren't particularly sweet. They're sort of like middle of the road, and I might just leave it for 3/4. I'll leave that quarter sitting there, and I'll test it a wee bit later on while it's cooking. All that's left to do now is bring it up to heat, but I do that gently. Just grab a stirrer. There we go, here's my wooden spoon. And I'll just give it literally a stir. And I want the sugar to dissolve. Now I do that on a reasonably high, not too hot, or else the sugar might just burn on the base of the pot. This is a very thick based pot, so it should be okay, but I'm always cautious. Once you've got sugar in whatever, you know, you always got to be careful. So I like to dissolve the sugar first. It's on a medium to high heat. Once it's dissolved, I bring it to the boil, and then I turn it back down to a temperature where it stays simmering. So not boiling flat out, but simmering, so that it reduces down. And that just takes time. Right, the sugar has dissolved. There's no more on the base of this, and it's boiling quite well, as you can see. So now I'll turn it down to a simmer. There it goes. Just a very gentle cook. Now the idea is, of course, is that the sugar and the juice and the skins cause sort of congealing, so that it comes into a sort of a jammy situation. And then I'll pop it in a jar and let it cool. Beautifully caramelized, getting quite thick, so I'm now going to pour it into a jar. And there you have it, my cooking marmalade. Absolutely delicious, and I'm really pleased that some of you decided it was worth having the recipe for. So enjoy.